Hello. Welcome back to Mutant Manifesto. My name is Jackie. I'm sitting here by myself, having a couple of Teal Label Modest Brewing Company lagers, instead of attending a protest that 4,000, 5,000 of my fellow Minnesotans, fellow Minneapolites are going to right now in Powderhorn Park and across the city. There's been all sorts of crazy shit going on. ICE is literally, you can just drive anywhere for about 15 minutes and see, like, on an average of, 1 to 3, ICE agents either just cruising by, flicking you off, mocking you, or abducting somebody, or brutalizing somebody, pepper spraying someone point blank in the face. And this obviously comes after Renee Good was shot in the face 3 times after her last words were, "I'm not mad at you."
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Jonathan Ross is the man who killed her, and his first words after doing so were, "That fucking bitch."
Fucking bitch.
So I'm sitting here alone rather than going out. I mean, I'm kind of burnt out. I've been organizing with my workplace, doing a lot of facilitating, and also out and about doing patrols. Helping with food distribution, mutual aid stuff. And then I'm here sitting in my room trying to see what kind of creative work I can salvage, if any. But I'm not out of the protest. There was even a potluck that I was going to go to, organized by a community organizer that's immediately connected to the spaces that I live in, and I was excited to go to that. There was extra food from the food distribution event that I was at defending, that I was going to take to the potluck. But instead I'm sitting here. It's 6 p.m. drinking Teal Label Modest brewskis. Played some Magic the Gathering. Checked to see if there are any good podcast episodes out. I'm thinking about how Renee Good's last words were kind of an ironic extension of care to the officer. "I'm not mad at you." Being look, you may have harmed me, you may be tough or whatever, you may be putting on a big show of being tough, at least. You may be brutalizing people in my vicinity. But I'm not mad at you. This kind of somewhat ironic, somewhat touching reversal of power by extending care, couched in humor. There's the mocking element of it, and there's also the genuine element of it. And I'm thinking about how maybe that touched the nerve that set Ross off the most. Maybe that was like her true crime, was just extending that care. Connecting something that Ross didn't want to have connected. And I'm thinking about how there's actually like this weird dynamic when it comes to these mass organizing events. I was in Minneapolis during the George Floyd uprising, and then I moved back to LA for a couple of years before moving back to Minneapolis a couple of years ago. And when you see moments like this where like there's like big collective community organizing, grassroots, spontaneous uprising situation, because that's like what's been happening this time around, is like one of the routes we have for resistance is just building these like signal chats that you can get part of that are like hyper local. There's one for like all these different neighborhoods, and then people get organized into like dispatch roles and patrol roles and mutual aid groups and strategizing groups and workplace coordination. It all just kind of happens. All of a sudden, there's like thousands and thousands of people just kind of like linking up and joining together to resist this. Well, like if you're gonna go to like a protest or like an action, it makes a lot, like you're really supposed to go with a buddy. And if you're gonna patrol, it's a lot easier to do it with a person in your car who's not you, so that you can be driving and the other person can be sending updates, tracking license plates of potential ICE people, coordinating with dispatch, coordinating with other patrols, etc. And like, I think that there's like part of it, like if I was going to go to the protest, then I could reach out to my friends to do so. Like, do you want to go to this thing with me? But a lot of my friends don't have the capacity to do that because of disability, or they are going with somebody else, or they have a bunch of other stuff to do. And it's kind of pointing out this fact that, like, even though I reached back out to my comrades from back in the day, and we, like, had lunch and stuff, or had a drink or two, hung out a couple times, like, our relationship kind of fizzled out over the 2 years that I've been back. And the other people that I'm friends with here, I haven't been putting in the effort to really get to know them on that, like, real bestie level. And I'm just really, it's like times like these when, like, you need that community, that, like, somebody to inspire you to go out with them, and for you to ask to go out with you. And it's like pointing out the fact that I just don't really have that. And I mean, the thing is, you can reach out to the signal groups and you can find people. Like, if you do that, if you look into it, you will connect with community, and then you'll find connections. Like this one person, I mean, I've met new people that are my neighbors, and that's great. I mean, like, I'm in a new part of Minneapolis that I'm still getting to know, and I've been meeting my neighbors here that are like-minded, and at least in some significant ways. But I guess it's like there's a difference between solidarity and friendship, and especially when a lot of the times you have to use like anonymity because you can't really trust anyone because they might be a fucking fed or they might be a lib. Some, like, you can't just be completely yourself at the start of those relationships, and like actual friendships take time, and take time that's not for a purpose. It's not utilitarian. So what am I trying to say? I guess I'm just trying to say that, like, it's times like these when we realize that we need our neighbors, we need community and all that stuff, and then we try to like do catch-up work to get there. But it's also the times when we realize, like, damn, I haven't been putting in the work. Am I even as invested in my in-person relationships in this space and this time? Or have I kind of let them drift, let them slide, let them kind of freeze over and grow cold? My therapist brought up this idea of Schopenhauer's hedgehogs. It's like a thought experiment about human relationships of a certain type, of a certain psychological profile. When these creatures are like too far apart in the winter, they freeze to death. But then, if they get too close to one another, they'll stab each other with their little spikies, and then they'll bleed to death. So it's like this push-pull between those two different modalities, two different extremes. And then there's that video of the woman. I don't know if y'all saw this. I don't remember what her name is. There's a video that went kind of viral of a woman who's ordered DoorDash, and the Dasher came into her house to avoid getting detained by ICE. And for a while, this woman and her husband harbor the woman in their basement while they like freak out and start filming and talk to ICE. And one of the ICE agents has their fucking finger on their gun the whole time. Another guy's like a classic, like, Latino Nazi. She's like, I'm native, like, my fucking ancestor died for, didn't die for you guys to do this shit. But she's also like, I just ordered DoorDash. I'm not supposed to be, I don't want to be in the middle of this. Like, oh my God. And then there's like this whole thing, and she's like, oh, the woman's like, I have my ID. And she's like, okay, look, she has her ID. Like, don't arrest her. Meanwhile, this woman's like husband is being like grabbed and manhandled by ICE and taken in. She's like in the basement crying and shit. And then at some point, she and her husband are like, they like call the cops. They're like, what should we do? What should we do? Cops are like, listen, you got two options. Either let him in now, or you got to let him in later. Or you can release her. And she's like, I'm so sorry to do this, but I have to let you go. And she pulls the woman up from the basement and like pushes her out through the front door almost. Pushes out to the front door. And then perseverates right there and starts screaming at the cops again. Like, fuck you guys. Why are you making me do this? I've got 11,000 followers on TikTok. And yes, it's a very stressful time. Like, I understand. And she was brave in a lot of ways. But what it underscores is because, like, what that underscores is, like, don't trust the cops. Because, like, the cops were lying. Like, they didn't have a warrant. Like, nobody had the legal right to go into her house. They could have broken down the door. It's true. But, I mean, it was on camera. Like, it's unlikely they would have actually done that. She could have just Googled what she was supposed to fucking do instead of calling the fucking cops. So there's kind of a naivete on that side that's a little bit frustrating. But then the other thing is that, like, she could have been connected to, like, she could have just Googled what am I supposed to do about ICE. And if you just Google it or ask fucking ChatGPT or whatever, it'll tell you, like, one of the first things you should do is try to get connected to your local community. So that's like your neighbors. And if you just ask around a little bit, I mean, people are patrolling all the time around here. There's, like, Know Your Rights trainings, MIRAC, all these, like, Monarca, all these different organizations that you can like reach out to figure out what you're supposed to do in a time when you're defending somebody. And it's only like 1 or 2 degrees of separation. Anyone in Minneapolis is 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from joining one of these like hyper-local signal chats where you can simply message somebody, hey, I've got someone in my basement who's like resisting ICE, and then like a whole squadron of community defenders will come up and show up. And in fact, that is what happened, even without her knowing about that or thinking of it. It's like people, probably people who are patrolling out there, spotted the vehicles, and then some people showed up from the neighborhood filming. And as soon as people start showing out their faces and filming the ICE agents and asking what's going on, that's when this lady, this owner of property, this, it's like a nice kind of like almost McMansion level, like nice fucking looking place, that's when she's able to say like fuck off, get the fuck out of here, like you're not gonna take her, all that stuff. It's like when up until that point she was about to push this like crying Latino lady like out the door and be like, sorry, like you gotta go, I don't want them to break my door down, I got a baby. But when the community arrives, that's when she's like, actually, fuck you, ICE, like, you can fuck off. She says, like, it's not my fault your wife doesn't want to suck your fucking dick. So it's like, I have no doubt that she feels super stressed out. I mean, she didn't follow it up the next day or whatever with like a follow-up, and she was like, I'm going to take a pause from posting and stuff. Just like, yeah, it makes sense. Take care of your nervous system. But like, if you actually fucking care about the stuff, it's like... And she was also like, if it wasn't for the community, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. It's like, no shit, you would have literally given this person... You would have like pushed her into the hands of ICE if it weren't for... if it weren't for the community showing up. But there's something that I identify with there. Because it's like, the response that we're entrained upon, that we're encultured to, is to retreat into our comforts. Order a pizza. Drink some modest teal label lagers. Play Magic the Gathering Arena. Listen to Chapo Trap House. Watch Hassan Piker. Jerk off to Chatterbait. Am I the only one who watches Chatterbait anymore? And block it all out through a haze of endorphins and hedonism. I'm like realizing as I go through therapy for the first time in a long time, I finally force myself to be able to afford it, to put aside the coin for it. I'm realizing how like scary it is to like sit with care for yourself, care for others. And then like there's this other element where it's like it kind of sucks to have to be in community, keep relationships up, talk to neighbors, get to know strangers, be around strangers. And it's hard and like scarce to actually find someone that you really love and really trust, like a best friend. Who also is down to like show up for these things. Because everyone's just so like resource strained and time strained and nervous system strained, money strained. money being a big reason why I moved away from the coast, right? Why I'm in Minneapolis, because I could afford a fucking mortgage here, whereas like for the same price that was paying for a shitty studio there, you know? And it's the reason why I worked as in management for like 4 years. A job that I thought was really fucking stupid, that also made it difficult to relate to my coworkers and build solidarity with them, right? So I could afford this property. So that I could like actually have a financial future. I don't know, there's like a real corrosive element here. Like, there's this Deleuzian idea of the rhizome, where like everything you can kind of connect to everything else laterally, in all sorts of like unexpected ways. And there's this idea of the oceanic affect, oceanic feeling. This type of sentiment that you access through collectives. When you're marching with thousands of people and you're doing a chant, I mean, the chants themselves can be kind of like, sometimes I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Boots, boots, boots on the ground. Like doing nursery rhymes with everybody. But other times it's like, you know, like when it just says like fuck ice or something, and you're shouting that with thousands of other people at the same time, you're like, yeah, I feel this collective power. And you start to feel yourself circuited through all the other selves that are there, reverberating the same chant with you. You know, you're starting to like all of your voices, vibrations play off one another and magnify and reverberate off the surrounding environment. And you're all stepping over the same icy, globular streets that are slippery and hard and treacherous. But this oceanic affect is like this rhizomatic sentiment is like frozen. It's like not fully living right now for me. I think for a lot of people, you know, it's kind of frozen and chopped up. It's like kind of brittle and treacherous and insulating all at once. And that's what I kind of want to explore. Where does it need to be thawed? Where can it be like extended? Where does it need to be broken up with fucking ice, with a salt? You know, where does it need to be salted? Where does it need to be chopped with an ice pick? And where does it need to be built into beautiful structures? You know, this icy rhizome. Okay, thanks for listening. Yeah.